I could feel the little guy going, well, that's okay. That's modern, but it's okay. I like the chord changes in that. That's all right. Who was that? Who was that whippersnapper? Mr. Paul McCartney. Mr. Paul McCartney. Whippersnapper. Well, I'm just going to play a few more tunes here. Just a couple more tunes because it's still cold, isn't it? How you doing? You doing okay? So, thank you so much, Scott and Laura, for having us here to your house. Really, really appreciate it. Thanks for having me. Thanks for renting the Pillars of Fire. I appreciate that. I'll be packing those up and taking them with me on the airplane tomorrow. I was in Ireland when I wrote this tune. No, I'm sorry, I was in Ohio. It's about Ireland. I was in Ireland when I was sort of inspired to write this tune. Here's what happened. I was traveling with this dude from Mitchelstown named Patsy O'Brien. Great guitar player and singer, Irish, and we had traded tours. He came and opened for me here on a little leg in the Midwest in the States, and then I went over there and we played this gig that wasn't so great in Limerick, which is a tough town. Limerick's a tough town, and the gig was okay, but it wasn't that great. But then afterwards, there's wonderful thing that happens over there, which is that they locked the doors of the pub. They had what they call a lock-in. And they just sat up, drinking and talking, and there were all these 13 and 12 and 14-year-old children over in the corner just playing traditional music, like little kids just playing, the people's music, like 400-year-old tunes, that sort of, it was just beautiful to see young people doing something old. It makes me think that we're going to be okay. I mean, we're not going to be okay, but things are going to be okay. And so, like, I'm sort of marveling at this, and then the dude who runs the joint comes over to me, and he says, we have a whole other thing going off in another part of the property. And he takes me there, and there's these double doors, and, like, there's smoke creeping out from under the doors, and as I'm approaching here, like, and there's a full-on rave going in there. There's like 800 Irish 16-year-olds dancing to a couple of Brazilian DJs. And, this would have been 4 or 5 years ago, which is to say that I was then as I am now, to a 16-year-old, pretty much, I might as well have been in just an anthropological camera stationed 5.5 feet off ground. Like, I'm irrelevant. I'm grown up. Like, they'd be dancing, and they'd look at me and Patsy, and they'd be like, that was it. Just long enough to deduce that we were not their species. And so we're just sort of floating through the pheromones and the smoke and the MDMA haze. And there's this girl, and there's this scrum of Irish boys dancing, like they're sort of drawn in by her, but drawn away by their upbringing. So there's sort of like a gravity well, like right around her, and we're watching this, as you do. And Patsy, and this only happens to you in Ireland, people just say stuff like this off the cuff. He leans over and he says in my ear, he says, the female humpback whale is considerably larger and stronger than the male. So their mating dance is as such, she just rises to the surface and turns over. Nothing gonna happen, And so then 3 males sort of swim up around her, and there's the one on the left and the one on the right, and then the poignant one, the one that I find poignant, the one who's just sort of underneath, who's just there for the survival of the species. Let's call him Wingman Whale, Nothing's happening for him. Like the entire time, she's thinking to herself, do I fancy the fella on the left or the fella on the right? And I sort of absorbed this in my ear, and then we just watched the primates. So this song is called Girl in the High Tops. Young girl in the high tops is speaking of Shelley to me. I'm drinking red wine, I feel fine. She tells me we lose all the best to the sea. We lose all the best to the sea. Show is over, the place is almost empty. The bartenders put up the chairs. Every song that I sang is gone on its way into the air. Is gone on its way to the air. Gone, gone, all the way gone. Everyone all the way gone to the light. Amen. She tells me these songs really moved her. She tells me she goes to school around here. She tells me next spring she and her boyfriend are going to Dublin to live for a year. To Dublin to live for a year. Gone, gone, all the way gone. Everyone all the way gone to the light. Amen. Tell her I lived in Dublin once. I managed not to say I was young then. And she says right on, but I'm gone. My mind's eyes wandering forward to when the pretty young girl in the high tops is writing poems in her flat and wrapped minds. Tonight it's snowing in Cleveland and I'm no one to tell her, but we lose the best things to time. Oh, we lose all the best things to time. Now when we're gone, 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 everyone all the way gone to the light. Amen. Gone, gone, all the way gone, everyone all the way gone to the light. Amen.